Well, I wanted to leave some room today so that we can bring up my friend here, Daniel Berger. So let's welcome Daniel. I said, wow, Daniel, you shared your testimony with me. It's like a Saul-like experience. We just hope that you don't have to go through the same trials that Saul went through. But he went through, and we have the road to Damascus experience, the conversion. So his title would be the road to New York City conversion experience. Okay, so what I want to do is, many ways you were living before you had that conversion. You were living for yourself without regard to Jesus. So what was going on in your life before you had this experience with Jesus?
Yeah, well, the truth is, and thanks for bringing me up, Kevin. I appreciate it. Truth is, I didn't know Jesus, so there was no relationship. For 37 years, I lived my life thinking, I don't know what the truth is. Who am I? I'm just some guy, a local boy. I grew up in Kamaki, graduated from Kamaki High School, and against all odds, I became an attorney in 2 states and was successful, even though I didn't have connections or I didn't have money growing up or anything like that, which is very hard to do in this state. But it wasn't like a religious thing in my life. I mean, I was baptized when I was a baby, but we never went to church regularly. My parents were split when I was 1, so my mom was a single mom with 3 of us, and my dad, he's working all the time, and so we always were together, but we didn't really have time for church. At least it wasn't my decision. We never went. Maybe like Easter, Christmas sometimes, but not all the time. So anyway, religion wasn't really a big thing in my life, and my parents would tell me about God. My mom would always talk to me about God when I was a kid, even though we didn't go to church. And but then you go to school, and they talk to you about evolution, the Big Bang Theory, all these different things that higher education teaches you. And I went all the way to the top. And again, I was for 37 years thinking, well, I don't know the truth, so let me focus on what I can focus on myself and doing the best that I can for myself. And against all odds, I was very successful. I became like the youngest partner in New York City. Everything financially that I wanted to achieve, I achieved, and everything professionally I wanted to achieve, I achieved. I had a beautiful wife. I still do, with 3 beautiful boys. But that was kind of where I was at in my life. We weren't really happy, though. Even though, it was like kind of at the point where I would always think, if we just got this next promotion, or if I just won this next trial, then we're going to be happy. Or if, once I get that nice car that, I know I can afford now, then it's going to fix that problem. And, momentarily, maybe, but the truth was, we were kind of lost.
Yeah, okay. So it started off as a typical day, right? You were going to work, and then tell us what happened on your way to work.
Sure. So I guess the conversion moment, which Kevin calls it a conversion moment, I'm still, I don't know what to think of it. That's why I'm meeting with Kevin. He's the expert. So I was in my car on my way to work, and this is in Brooklyn, New York. And I was so successful at this point in my career that I was commuting back and forth from Hawaii to Brooklyn. So my oldest son, Daniel, who's downstairs, he was just starting kindergarten. And we didn't want him to go to schools in Brooklyn. We wanted him to go to schools in Hawaii. And we didn't have any family in New York. It was just us, my wife and I. So for the first 5 years, we never went on a date. She's stay-at-home mom. I'm working from like 9 in the morning till 9 at night. And, you work for the big firms in New York City, and they expect you to come in on the weekends. They expect you to stay late. And it's all about the money, because that's what drives the city. And I had clients from all over the world. I had Hindu clients, and Muslim clients, and Christian clients, and Jewish clients. And I was in the personal injury field. So my whole job was money. And part of my job was giving large amounts of money to people that never had it before, and seeing how it changes their life and shapes their life. And one thing that I learned, if anything, is that if there's a current religion of the world that everyone can agree on, it's money. It's the only thing that everyone can say and trust in and believe in, unfortunately. But that's kind of where I was. And so one day, so my wife actually was in Hawaii with the 3 kids, and I was in New York for a trial. And I would do that for about every other month. Like January I'd be in Hawaii, February I'd be in New York, March I'd be in Hawaii, April I'm in New York. Back and forth, and I thought that was going to be my life forever, because I was so, it's like they said, they got the golden handcuffs on you, like you're not going to leave this job, you're locked into it. And my rationale with my wife was, that's how we earn our money, and it was better in Hawaii for her, honestly. She had my family, we had babysitters, rather than being alone in New York while I'm working all the time, because that was my life, it was my career, it was like ignoring my kids and ignoring my personal life for work. That was probably what was causing all the problems, now looking back on it. So I'm in my car one day, and it's like 7 in the morning, I'm getting to my office in Brooklyn, and as I pull up, suddenly I can't get out of the car. It's almost like I'm paralyzed. And it's because I have this thought in my head, which I can't get out of my head. And it's, quit your job now, or something bad is gonna happen. So I'm like, trying to reason it out of myself, because I don't wanna quit my job. I'm doing really well. I'm like, well, what bad could happen? I'm thinking, like, I don't know. That was kind of a scary thing. And I was like, I just had my 3rd son in April. So this was June of last year, less than a year ago. And is there just a little bit of water?
Yeah, water.
Grandma, that one, my mouth is so dry. I don't continue. So I get this idea in my head, quit your job or something bad is going to happen. And I'm trying to reason it out of myself, because financially we're not in a position to quit my job. I have 6-figure student loans. I have, car bills, house in Brooklyn, house in Hawaii, daily expenses, 3 kids, like I said. So I'm trying to reason it out of myself, like, not going to make sense. Don't quit, don't quit. So I'm sitting there for about an hour, and then I get another thought that I can't get out of my mind is, just quit your job and everything's going to be okay. So then I'm like really confused. Well, I don't know what to do. So usually when I'm really confused, I call my wife. So I called my wife, and she was like really confused also, because it's 3 in the morning in Hawaii, it's 8 a.m. in Brooklyn. She said, why are you calling me? I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm going to quit my job. I think she was like still asleep. She said, whatever you want to do, babe. Like, she's like, I trust you, And so I was like, okay. And so I don't know what to do. I couldn't move, and that's all I'm thinking. So I pick up my phone, I call my partner, and I'm like, I'm going to quit, Put in my 2 weeks notice. I was an attorney. I was on trial. Otherwise, I would have walked out right then. But I had to wrap up my things, so 2 weeks, give my 2 weeks notice. And the moment that I told him that, I get this wave of relief, like happiness over me. And I'm not thinking about the trial anymore, because usually when I'm on trial, just to give you an idea, it's like that's all I think about. And so usually my wife doesn't like to be around me when I'm on trial. That's why she's in Hawaii, I'm in New York. But anyway, so I'm not thinking about the trial anymore. Now I'm just thinking about all these things that happened in my life that led me up to that point, the good, the bad, and I was starting to get ideas about things that I never thought about before. What's important in life, what really matters, your family, your kids. I was looking at people in my career 5 or 10 years down the line, they're on their 2nd and 3rd wife already, their kids hate them, and I was like, I don't want that, I still have a shot. I'm with my wife, she still loves me. She just said she believes in me, and so I was like, all that was coming to me, but I didn't really know what was going on, I was still on trial, so I get out of my car, I go up to my office, and I'm working out my week. But the whole week, this was Monday, Tuesday, I'm getting all these ideas that don't make sense to me, honestly. I thought I was crazy at first. That's why I'm with Kevin, to like confirm that I'm not gonna go to the Papuli house or something, but because I'm getting these messages about save the world, like go and save the world, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, what? Now what's going on, like quit your job, save the world, what the? So, again, like I'm trying to reason it out of myself, like this doesn't make sense, And then like every time I would try and like say like, but I'm just a regular, he would like show me a vision of like a memory from like a case that I did and the lesson that I learned and why it's like going to lead me to be able to do what he wants me to do. So by like day 2 or day 3, I realized that like I think this is God talking to me. I don't know who else it could be, and it wasn't like an audible voice, because I always thought like like with the burning bush, you're going to talk to you from a bush or something. I don't know. But it was just like thoughts in my mind. So like whenever I would question myself or doubt, like think, oh, I'm crazy, he would show me something to say, hey, you're not crazy. Look at this, you know? And like, so it confirmed it for me over and over again so many times within those 2 days that I was like so filled with joy and energy and happy, I couldn't believe it. And my wife, poor thing, she's in Hawaii. She has no idea, you know, because I'm so crazy. I'm like writing things down. I'm leaving voice memos for myself. By like Tuesday night, I think it was, she calls me and she's like, babe, do you think we did the right thing? Like, maybe you can still get your job back from your partner, you know? And I was like so filled with energy. I was able to, and by that point, able to verbalize what was going on to her. I was like, I think, you know, God's putting messages in my head, and these are what they are. It's about, you know, just doing good. So, for instance, I didn't realize how I was going to save the world. Like, I thought I'm crazy, but I was reasoning with myself. I'm like, at least it's a good crazy, because I'm not getting messages about going in and kill people or doing bad things. I was like, let's just roll with it and see what happens, you know. What else am I going to do? So I'm explaining to her that, you know, I'm getting these messages about, first I have to save myself. You know, I got to be strong, because I wasn't living a good life, right? You know, ignoring my family, you know, working all the time, just focused on money, you know, drinking after work, whatever it is. And I was like 50 pounds heavier, you know, never really worked out. And so first I got to save myself and become a healthy person. And then I got to save my marriage with my wife, because I still had my wife, you know, but nobody has a perfect marriage, but we were like opposite of perfect marriage at that point. But we were still together. And then if I could save my marriage with my wife, which I have, you know, we're wonderful. The baby has a sore tummy tonight, but otherwise she's always here. Then I got to save my 3 boys, right? Because my 3 boys were like crying for a father that they didn't have. I could see that. Now, like, that was some of the visions that I was getting, and it was really humbling, like ego breaking that whole week, because multiple times I broke down in tears from the messages that he was giving me, positive messages, and then multiple times I broke down in tears in like being ashamed of the life that I thought I was like the most powerful man in the world, because I had all the money, I had the car, I had the clothes, I'm back and forth from Brooklyn. I had like this get out of jail free card I was telling you, like I had a detective friend, you know, like the key to the city basically. I could do anything I wanted, right? And I thought I was the strongest man in the world. And God was showing me, no, that's not what strength is. That's, you know, true strength is standing up and loving your children and your wife. And so that's what he showed me, how I'm going to be able to do it, if I'm able to do it. Is first we have to be the shining light example of my family, right? And if we're strong and we're saved, then it's going to be like a ripple effect. And little by little, maybe, who knows? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But I told my wife, I said, even if we just save ourselves and our 3 boys, that's going to be enough for me, you know? So I told her that, and she had like an experience herself that night. So I don't want to speak for her, and I was actually joking. I said, you know, maybe you can give yours next week to her testimony, because she has her own testimony. But she told me that she was sitting on the back deck, I'll tell you a little bit, and she was like looking out at the papaya trees in our backyard, and she was looking at the birds, and all of a sudden, she started to get this wave of happiness, like 10, 15 minutes after we had our conversation. And she was so intense that she had to go lay down in the bed. And then she started to get these ideas about the children and listening to their voices and doing good, basically in line with mine, but I guess from a mother's perspective. And so I don't want to speak for her again. She's always here. You guys can talk to her, and you know, this is like kind of a big informal forum, but you know, I'm always here. You guys can talk to me. There's so many other parts to this story. I tell it every week with Kevin in the small group, and so I guess now that was Tuesday, and finishing out the week. I guess there's 2 more parts. Let me take a sip. You want to focus on anything, or did I miss anything?
No, you're going, and then through that you have this idea of forming the nonprofit, right?
Well, that was, I didn't know, you know, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, I'm looking for a vehicle or something to like get this vision, right? So one of the visions I had was this idea, save, right? Like save the world. I saw the letters SAVE. It stands for strong alpha values every day, or strong adolescent values every day. And so the theme is like teaching the kids to just do good, right? Every day. If you teach kids to just do good every day, that's how we're going to save the world. The world is not a bad place. It's only bad because the people that are in it are making it bad. It's kind of simple. I saw that as an attorney, behind the scenes, the decisions people make, we talked about this, like there's man's law and there's God's law, and man's law is like arbitrary. People can decide to enforce it or not, or how they enforce it, how they want to enforce it. It's all up in the air, but God's law doesn't ever change. And part of the visions I was getting was like that there's this universal message for everybody in the world. We're all human, whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, because all my clients were all good people. But I wasn't a religious guy. I never really got into it with them. But I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking if there's God, it's one God for everybody. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe he was giving me messages in my head, but that's why I'm coming to you and talking to you. But so anyway, again, I still don't know if I'm crazy. Kevin's going to be the boss of that. But going through the week, so now Friday night, usually at the end of the week, I'm so tired, I just want to go to bed. I'm so tired. And that week I was feeling the exact same, because you can believe it was double. I was on trial, and I was having this like supernatural religious experience, which I didn't understand, but it was like filling me with joy and energy. But that Friday night I was so tired, I was driving home, and I get a call from my friend, David. You met him actually. And he invited me to do dinner where he's going to give a speech. And I was so exhausted, I told him, I said, David, I really would love to go, but I'm so tired, I'm not going to make it. I said, absent a miracle, I'm not coming. And I hung up the phone. And the moment I said absent a miracle, I started to get all these visions and ideas again. And, I was so filled with energy. Needless to say, I was with him all night till like 3 in the morning, talking to people about God and religion, and it was unbelievable. It was a Jewish dinner, and so I was, I'm not Jewish, but I didn't care. They're talking about God, I'm talking about God. It was unbelievable for me. And so now, the real clincher for me was that weekend. It was Sunday, and I was getting ready for the work on Monday, and I was doing my grocery shopping, like meal prep for the week, and I pull up to my place in Brooklyn, and I don't know what it was. I don't know for whatever reason, but I was like questioning myself again, and it was like, this is unbelievable, and I think I am crazy, because my wife and I that whole week, we were so happy and so filled with joy, and like we kept confirming for each other how real it felt, and it's unbelievable. Like, this is the realest thing in the world. It's the realest thing in the world. It doesn't make sense, but it's so real, and it makes so much sense, and it's so simple that it's got to work. But that Sunday morning, I like lost that joy and that feeling for a second, and I got scared, and I was like, man, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to save the world. This is crazy. And I was like worried for a second. I was like, well, I quit my job. Like, how are we going to pay the bills? And started to think about the money again, And so I was building a relationship with God throughout that time. Every time I would talk to him with the doubt, he would answer it in a roundabout way, whether it be on like Twitter, right? Like I told you, like whenever I would think, I'm not going to be able to do this, and I'd pull up social media or something, and on my scroll would be like the answer of like how I'm going to do it, or like, But that morning I got so scared, and it was just for a second. It was like literally 1 second that I felt it in my heart, like I lost him. And so I challenged him. I said, hey, God, like you just lost me for a second. If you're real, you got to show me something. And the moment I said that, I like reached for my phone to try and grab something, and it started to ring. And it was my wife. And I'm like, okay. And this is in the morning again in Brooklyn, like 9 a.m. And so I pick up the phone, and I'm like, babe, why are you calling me? And she goes, God told me to call you. I almost dropped the phone, but I'm an attorney, so I like follow up, right? I'm like, what do you mean God said to call me? Like, I almost didn't believe it myself, like, And she's like, she got mad at me. She's like, babe, I don't know. She's like, God woke me up from a dead sleep, took me to my phone, and told me to call you. And I was like, I get in the chicken skin again, Because from that moment on, I never lost faith. It's like, Paul, like you have that faith, you're filled with the Spirit. It's not about the material things in the world anymore. Like, that was confirmation for me that God is real. Like I told you, for 37 years, I didn't know. That moment was like the clincher for me. I know God is real now. And I can say that with 100% no doubt in my mind. And so now it's not about this world anymore. It's all about doing good for him. He's telling me a message to do something for him. I better not listen to him. I don't want to take that chance. I already know you're there, right? So that's an easy one for me, but sometimes, people think it's a little cuckoo. So I left my job, right? And so 4th of July was my last day at work in New York City. Like, ironically, right? I got my freedom, independence, 4th of July. And I can't make this stuff up, And I was telling my kids, I was like, yeah, I don't work for anybody anymore. Now I just work for God, And so I have my own law firm here, but it wasn't like developed, like I don't have clients or anything, and I didn't even want to practice law anymore. I was so disillusioned with the law, I was just focused on this vision that I had. And so I started this nonprofit organization, which we just got 501c3 approval, like last week. And it's 100% volunteer based, and we're about just teaching kids to do good. And it's not about that. I don't want to glorify that because Kevin was telling me like a business model about how Pearlside, just helps plant churches, and they're not really worried about the Pearlside name. They're worried about just planting churches. And so I'm just worried about, teaching kids to do good, whether it's under my nonprofit, your church, anybody's church. If you're teaching kids to do good, then God bless. I want to help you. If not, if you want to do bad, then stay away. Like Jesus, he's flipping tables and stuff. But
Amen. What an amazing testimony, huh? And you know how he came? Oh, yeah, come on. He came through.
It's my mom. It's my
He came through judo. So his kids are doing judo. He actually is doing judo too now on Monday mornings.
That's what I wanted to say. So that's like now since July, I've just when I was going through that week and I was unsure, whenever I was unsure, God would confirm for me in some kind of roundabout way. Since July, God's been confirming for me in my life pretty much daily in roundabout ways that I'm doing the right thing. And I constantly pray to him and ask him to guide me that I'm doing the right thing. And one of the places he led me was to Kevin, unbelievably. I stumbled on here everything has happened chance, which makes it so unbelievable for me. Like the people that I meet now recently all makes it come together. But meeting Kevin, it was unbelievable. I came to the dojo wanting my kids to do judo, and he tells me, "Oh, are you going to come on the mat with them?" I never even thinking I'm going to come on the mat. And so I'm like, "Sure." And then he's like, "Oh, you're going to come down to the Bible study after?" I wasn't even looking for a church because I wasn't sure who was talking to me. I thought God was talking to me, but I don't know who God is. So I'm like, okay, he's going to teach me, And he comes down to the Bible study. We're teaching our kids, and here's this strong, powerful man, Olympic champion, and he's inviting me down, to come and do Bible study with him personally. And I go in the room downstairs, and it's like literally him and two other guys, and he's playing the guitar for me and my son. And I'm like, it's unbelievable. Like, God is literally guiding me to the people that need to be in my life to complete this mission that he's put in my mind. That is not my mission. I didn't want to save the world. I didn't grow up saying I want to save the world. This is not my idea. But
Amen.
I'm living it.
Amen. Amen. Let's give him a hand. That's good. Awesome. That's our road to Brooklyn conversion. Isn't God good? It's always good to hear these testimonies that God is still moving. He's still calling people, and we don't have to wait. Once we hear the call of God, let's just get out there. I just threw him in there. He came down to the kids small group, and he says, "Hey, why don't you start teaching the kids already?" So he studies the Bible, and the next day he's teaching the kids, kind of like what Ryan does. Now he's doing it with the middle school kids. But it all starts with a relationship with Jesus Christ. It starts with knowing him. And so unless we know Jesus, we cannot really know our full call in God. So let's all, as we close, bow our heads in prayer.